Hey, welcome guys. Today we are going to be doing a quick review on Tamiya's Panzer II. And this is going to start off a kind of beginner series, also just kind of a dumbed down version of model building, and specifically tanks. Now, I did a top 5 video, a long time ago at this point, months ago, and I kind of talked about the top 5 tanks for beginners. And I've also kind of looked at and talked about quite often price, because price matters to pretty much all of us, at least most of us at some point, and I just thought this kit was absolutely perfect. Seeing as you can get it for under $15. Now I paid $14, I don't even think the price is left on here, but $14.95 for this kit. It is an old kit. It's from 1971. They gave it new parts in 1972, reboxed it in the 80s, and then they also used this to do 2 spin-offs in 2008 and 2009 for the Polish and French campaigns, if I'm not mistaken. But this kit remains on the shelves of pretty much any model store, online or in person, to this day. It is a very simple kit, but it doesn't really lack detail. And when I opened it, I had built this kit, a decade ago, but when I opened it and re-looked at the parts, I was actually really impressed with some of the quality. Yes, it's molded on, but it almost looks better than some of the new stuff that Tamiya is doing. So you'll hear me, and if you watch my videos, you know that I love a rubber band track kit. There's something to be said about it. And Tamiya is just so good at it, and this is such a perfect example of, what made Tamiya who they are today. So let's flip it over and let's see what we got in the box here. All right, so first things first, it's very nice. If you've watched any of my past couple reviews, it's nice to have a kit that fits on the workbench for once. I do have a small area here, so you don't often find that. Being a kind of beginner series here, I will let you know that we are not going to be using our airbrush. I did pick up this TS3, it's the dark yellow from Tamiya. Being a Africa Corps vehicle, that would be the base tone. Now, I'm unsure whether or not I want to do a camo pattern. Essentially what we would do is this be the base, and then we do acrylic over it. But unsure at that point, but we'll figure that out in the next couple weeks. So, Panzer II, one of the most common tanks, especially early war, and they were seen in every single theater, at least of the European and North African theater. So, let's see what we got in here. Now, if you have built other Tamiya kits before, you will obviously notice that just the style and everything of the directions is different. This is in fact a older Tamiya kit in a lot of ways. If you've seen one before, you don't even have to know it's made in the 70s to know that it in fact is made in the 70s. So we get a set of Japanese instructions, paint guide, Tamiya's tech tips, don't hurt yourself, or whatever it says in there. I've never cared to read through it. And then we have our instructions in English. So you'll notice it is one big long page. We will be getting figures in this kit. And we get some nice information on, where this exact tank, this North African version, would have been. We get a very long description. This is like going on 3 pages. It's maybe more information on this exact tank than you get in a kit today. So it's also a whole page basically on the figures alone. If you care about this type of thing and you like to learn about the kits as you build them, this is as impressive as any other kit. Really all we're missing compared to a modern kit is color photography, and maybe it broken up a little bit differently. I don't know, but it's really just the color photos. Get some nice instructions here if you're a beginner. And then it's really, as you can see, it's really only a couple steps. This is a very simplistic build, but again, it's not one that lacks detail. You will have poly caps in this kit, which is really, really nice. And then going back to the Japanese instructions, I have noticed this in like the Walker Bulldog and some of the other, you know, really old Tamiya kits, is the painting instructions are just going to be in Japanese. So do your best to figure out what you're looking at here. Obviously you can match up the decals or decals, if you will, but color scheme, you know, there's nothing really that tells us what that is, although in the instructions at the bottom we will have a little bit of help somewhere in here, although maybe not. Anyways, we'll have to read through those. We're doing ours in dark yellow. Obviously already did some basic research on it. So let's take a look at the sprues now. So looking quickly at the figures, they are quite literally like 1970s Tamiya figures. If you've gotten Tamiya figures in a kit before, you know the new ones are fantastic. The old ones aren't horrible. If you're a really good figure painter, I'm sure you could do some great work with these. They do have like minor flash. If I can get this to focus. There you go. There's some minor flash, there's some heavy seam lines. The only thing I noticed that pretty much makes these more or less unusable, and it's on every single one, because I was going to play around with these a little bit, but you get injector pin marks. This one's kind of hidden because it's within the strap. This one not so much. It's kind of on the back of every single one of them. You could use this to practice, number one, especially if you're a beginner, but also maybe some like little pieces of stowage, things like that that we could incorporate into the kit if you were doing a little diorama, something like that. The MP40s are like paper thin, which is very interesting. But then we do get these nice Africa Corps helmets, which we'll try to incorporate somehow, even just maybe leave one hanging off the vehicle. So those are the figures. Take them for what they are. Again, maybe just good practice. Then we have our bathtub style hull, as well as the upper hull for this kit. Now you'll notice we have some battery marks. That's pretty much a dead giveaway. That's an old Tamiya kit. Also the fact that it says 1971 on the box. But all of them used to be motorized, I believe, to just go front and back, like forward and backwards. It doesn't matter. On this kit, it would be cool if we still had the option, although I'm sure you could find some stuff on eBay. Not a ton going on with the bottom, the bathtub style hull. You'll see the suspension's already molded on, but it's molded on quite nicely. There's definitely not a lack of detail, and even more noticeably, a lot of stuff is molded on here, right? Like the boxes, the hatches, the little covers on the box here. That stuff on a new kit today would not be on there. We also do have our axe is molded on, but not the other tools, which is interesting. It was 50 years ago. I'm sure they had their reasons for doing it. But if you look at the detail on these hinges, and the detail, again, if I can get it to focus, on these boxes, they're not just blobs. Obviously, Tamiya over the years, or Tamiya, has refreshed these molds probably many, many times to keep this kit, you know, keep pumping out this kit. And it really shows. This is better quality than some of the new kits, if I'm being completely honest. Not, you know, better than the top kits that come out every year, but when I was looking at the Comet, these details almost seem better than the grab handles, which is really, really interesting. But the point being, is, yes, you do get some really nice detail on there. And because it's a really small kit, I think that's a really nice thing. Because especially if you're a beginner, small parts are always going to be difficult to work with. Then we do have a commander figure. And this commander figure, I will say, it still does have a large injector pin in the back. Although his little lower half doesn't have anything. You could sand that off. And I think this figure is better than the other figures in the kit. If you were going to use one, make a mini diorama, I think this would be the one to use. Now, I'm not going to do the figure, but definitely a good place to practice. And the seam lines are just in better places on this figure for you to clean up. You know, the ears are always tough, almost impossible, but it just seems like a better figure. Then we have our road wheels, sprockets, and idlers. Not a whole lot, not anything else really on this sprue. And this is only a 2-sprue kit. So on this second sprue, and I'm not obviously not counting the figures, we have our jack and some other tools, some spare tracks. We have obviously our entire turret assembly and a couple different hatches and our headlight. So there's not a ton that's going to be going on here, which is what makes it a perfect beginner kit. You'll notice there really aren't any small parts except for like a small handful. Literally, like, if you can even consider these small parts, that's obviously a small part there. I don't know, I'm sure it's part of the exhaust or something. But it's nice because we'll get to practice, and if you're a beginner, you'll get to practice, you know, on a good kit. There's not flash on this kit, which is remarkable. Again, probably because they have renewed their molds and everything like that, but it's literally less flash than was on the Tacom Tiger, which just came out. So maybe, yes, this kit is $15, it's cheap, it's simple, but it's still relevant, which is pretty amazing. We will get polycaps in this kit, which I love. I love the ability to, one, spin the wheel while you're painting them, because I do paint my wheels by hand, and I think probably a good amount of people do it that way, so nice to be able to do that. Also nice to be able to pull the wheels off. That way we won't go, you know, into any crazy weathering with this kit, but you would be able to reach all these areas without the wheels getting in the way. For painting too, is just really, really nice. And it doesn't really obstruct the engineering of the wheels. I'm not sure why they stopped doing it. I'm sure it's because they all have Lincoln length tracks now, which leads us to our rubber band tracks. If I remember correctly from 10 seconds ago, these are going to be heated. So this is a little bit interesting. Now, there's like 117 upgrade parts for this kit, if you look on ScaleMates. So if this really bothered you, you can easily find something else that works. If you are a beginner, I wouldn't use anything else than these right here. It's pretty easy. You heat up a screwdriver, put these together, and then you're just gonna basically smash the screwdriver and melt these two pieces together. Rubber band tracks obviously have their faults in terms of lack of detail. Sometimes they can break over time, but they are far more enjoyable, especially if you're a beginner, than Lincoln length tracks. So take it for what it is. The kit is $15, right, or less. So we're not going to nitpick the rubber band tracks. I'm actually really in the mood for building a rubber band track kit. Then we have our decals or decals. Now, a lot of this is going to be, if not all of them, are going to be North Africa decals on here, but we obviously do have like 5 different options. Not a whole lot of decals, which I think also makes this a very beginner-friendly kit. So, that is our review. We will be building this up. I assume this will build up very, very quickly. We will not, as we said earlier, be using our airbrush. We will be using our Tamiya spray paint that we got. You could very well use another spray paint if you wanted to. That's just what they had at Centerline Hobbies in Hyannis. Great store if you are in Massachusetts. But that's our Panzer II. If you've made it this far and you haven't already, I would obviously ask you to please like and subscribe. Obviously, like I said, we'll be building up, painting this kit. We will do very, very, very minor weathering. Probably just a pin wash. Maybe one use of a mud or something like that, or a sand. But we're going to keep it really simple for somebody out there that is a beginner, and also see what we can do with some of our more basic skills. Because as I said, I built this tank like a decade ago, and I've kind of always disliked the way it came out. So I'd like to see, and I'll pull it down when we do the build, and we can compare and see what I guess like 10 years experience actually does. So we have the Comet also, we have the Tiger also, and I am doing one of the H3 model figures that I'm going to be putting. It's the Battle of the Bulge figure. I'm going to do a little mini snow diorama. So stay tuned for those, and we will see you on the next video.